And joining us now on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome back. She was with us about a year ago. We're going to find out about her brand new novel. It's called Tiny Little Thing. We're joined by New York Times bestselling author Beatriz Williams, from up in, I believe, Connecticut today. And Beatriz, good to talk to you again. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we were just trying to figure out about a year ago, I guess, when the previous book came out. So you're very prolific.
Yes, they keep me busy these days. They really want, and I've actually got, the next book is coming out in November, so, there's no rest for the weary.
Well, when you get on a roll like this, I guess, do the ideas come any quicker, or does it get more challenging to write new novels?
Well, I often sort of have this baseball analogy. My husband's a big baseball fan, so I've sort of necessity had to learn a bit about the sport. And, the book that I'm writing, which is the one that's up to bat, and then I've usually got, or hopefully got, it better have, the book that's in, the on-deck circle, warming up. And that's the book that's, the idea that's simmering in the back of my brain, getting ready to be written. And then I've got my lineup of ideas in the batting order, and whichever one is ripest is the one who gets up next.
So those are the ones in the minor leagues, the ones you're thinking about in the minor leagues.
Exactly. So I have my, I often forget the names of my own children because I think I've got all these characters running around in my head all the time.
Well, just kind of remind the listeners again, your background, you were in the finance business, right? I was a management consultant for, I did corporate strategy for mostly financial services companies. So that was sort of back in the pre-kids era. And then, I had my children, and at one point I had 3 children under the age of 4, and wow.
I just figured now was a good time to do, a career change and to do what I really wanted to do, which was to write fiction. So, once you have kids, you actually get a little bit more courage about doing these things, because even if you crash and burn following your dreams, at least, you still have your kids who need and love you no matter what happens.
Yeah, The Secret Life of Violet Grant, that's the one you and I talked about a year ago, so
yes.
Which did very well. And this one, let's talk about it. It's called Tiny Little Thing. This one is, again, kind of a period piece, but a little more current, right? This is the mid-'60s, isn't it?
Well, it is, although, it's actually a bit of a spin-off of The Secret Life of Violet Grant. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, it's not a sequel exactly, but Violet Grant, you had this young woman, Vivian Schuyler, living in 1964 Manhattan, and she's busy running around solving a mystery that occurred to a long-lost relative 50 years earlier. And then while I was writing that book, and Vivian's got 2 sisters, and Vivian herself is this very madcap, outspoken, smart-mouthed young woman, and she's got 2 older sisters, and one of them, the middle sister named Pepper, is very much like Vivian. But the older sister is different. She's like your classic, the perfect older child, she's the goody two-shoes, and this is 1964, so what you do if you're a good girl in the 1960s is you are well-bred and well-groomed, and you marry well. And in fact, Tiny in 1964 has married very, very well. She's married this young man. He's this dazzling, sort of charismatic guy from a politically ambitious family, and clearly he's got a big future ahead of him. And Vivian dismisses her sister Tiny as being this, little Miss Perfect, very boring and conventional. And as soon as I wrote that paragraph about Tiny, who never actually appears in the book, I knew that Tiny was hiding a very, very big secret, and I knew that was going to be the subject of the next book. So I did, and the book goes back and forth between 1966, when Tiny, it's the summer, and they're on Cape Cod, and Tiny's husband Frank is about to run for he's actually just launched his campaign for a congressional seat in Massachusetts, and Tiny receives a blackmail note in the mail containing photographs from an indiscretion in her past that happened 2 years earlier, in fact, a couple of weeks before her wedding, when Tiny actually falls in love for the first time with a man who is not her husband, in fact, and she doesn't realize at the time that it's her husband's cousin, Caspian, who pops up in 1966 after 2 years serving in Vietnam,
and to help his brother with the congressional campaign. So Tiny's got a bit of a problem on her hands. She's being blackmailed, and then the man that she loves is back in her life again. So we go back and forth between 1964 as this relationship unfolds and 1966 as the secrets start bubbling to the surface.
That's when the fun begins.
It is indeed.
Well, the 60s, and I'm sure you probably watched some of the show too, Mad Men, people kind of got into that era with that show, and I know the show now about the astronauts' wives in the 60s, so that's kind of a hot period to kind of put some drama around, right? Interesting characters.
Well, I didn't actually do that intentionally. We don't have a TV in the house, and it's not that I'm philosophically opposed to television at all.
Probably not a bad idea.
Because, our TV broke. Our TV broke, and all of a sudden the kids' reading scores improved enormously, and so there was a period of time between, we kind of put off getting a new TV for a while. And so we just said, this is kind of working, so we stopped having the television in the house. Not that and the other reason, I've got this writing career, and I've got 4 kids, and I don't have a nanny or anything like that. I'm kind of doing it all here. And having a TV, if you've got no TV in the house, that's just one less distraction to keep you from writing. So I kept it that way. I will watch, Downton Abbey on my iPad, but I've never actually seen Mad Men or this new series. I'm terribly behind. At some point, this is going to catch up with me because I'll have no popular culture references.
You're not missing a lot on TV.
Keep writing historical fiction so that I don't have to worry about that.
I was going to say, you're not missing a lot, so you're probably better off. The kids are better off. They can watch it later when they grow up more.
Yes, exactly.
When you write about, though, an era like the 60s, the previous book you had that, and even before that, and then this one, do you do research on the era, like how people dressed, how people talked, what was going on historically to kind of keep it accurate?
Absolutely. Although writing about a more recent historical era is a lot different from writing about something more deeply in the past, because, it's a lot easier for a number of reasons. Number one, I was born in 1972, so that was my parents' heyday was the 60s. My in-laws' heyday was the 1960s. So I have a lot of lore already. If you sort of glean from them the things they were doing and their habits and the way they sort of lived their lives, you get a lot of clues from that. But the big thing, of course, you've got a visual record. You've got television shows and you've got movies that were in that era. And my goal as a writer of historical fiction is to make it as seamless as watching a movie that was made in the 60s. So that you don't get beaten over the head with the history club at all. It's just, this is the setting on which my human drama is being enacted. And if I'm doing my job right, I include enough details that what's going on. But, the fact is, if you're living in that era, and an event is occurring, it's not a historical event. It's a contemporary event. So it's something that all the characters are already going to know about. It would not be natural for this character to go on like a 2 or 3 paragraph explanation of something, because it's as natural to them as, us going on the internet. So, we wouldn't sort of sit there talking about how the internet works, to a friend. You wouldn't do that. So, my goal is to make it as seamless as possible. And so the reason 90% of what I learn about an era and study about an era doesn't make it on the page. And, and of course you have Google is a great backup if you need this or that detail, images of clothing in the 1960s, boom, there it is. Pointy-toed shoes were out, square toes were in. When did eyeliner go all the way around the eye versus the top of the eye? It's all these little things that make it real, make a real world for your readers.
Well, every decade has its own history and turmoil, but I would say the 60s probably top of that list of a lot of things going on at the time. So it's a great era to write about.
That makes it very interesting for me. I never actually went into writing saying I wanted to write about the 60s. Again, I tend to write more about it, the earlier part of the century. But what was great about the 60s, and again, much like the 20s, was you had all this, very profound social change going on, and really rubbing up against, the more traditional, ways of life. So, that friction is what creates, in my mind anyway, really good narrative. Really good conflicts for characters. So it turned out that the 1960s were actually a great fit for the kinds of things that I like to write about.
Name of the book is Tiny Little Thing. We've been talking with Beatriz Williams today, and a great book about political intrigue and secrets and all that kind of fun stuff. Good summer read. And Beatriz, give out your website again. People get in contact with you if they like. Get hold of the book.
Yes, that's www.beatrizwilliams.com, and that's Beatriz with a Z, Beatriz, Williams.com. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and they've finally dragged me onto Instagram as well. So you can find me most places now.
Great, yeah, I just joined that myself, so I'll post a picture of the internet of the interview as well. So we'll be Instagram friends as well. So it'll be fun.
Hey, excellent, that's wonderful. Yes, I'm whatever it is. Beatriz Williams is my author Beatriz Williams is my handle there. So
we'll look forward to.
I
know your next book coming out in the fall, so look forward to having you on when that comes out. And first of all, good luck with this one, and we'll chat with you then.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles.